Good evening, Morons. How are we?
All good.
Good evening. Doing good, man.
Good. We have always having a technical issue when we do this stream. We have the star of the show has decided not to grace us with his appearance today. He's decided to hide it, and if you want to subscribe, he will start showing his face. I think he's a little bit down with the weather though, so we'll try and be a little bit kind to him. But welcome in to the best picks that we've ever had on the stream so far. Out of the 70 odd movies that we've watched, these are by far the best ones that we've selected, because obviously they're selected by yours truly. The movies that we're going to discuss this week are Nightmare on Elm Street and Star Wars. But before we do that, we'll just do a quick recap of last week. Who can remember the movies that we watched last week?
Kill Bill, Jaws.
Kill Bill and Jaws.
There we go. Kill Bill and Jaws. Two absolutely cracking movies to take us into this fantastic week that we've got coming up. Although there was some controversial thoughts across both of those movies that pissed off some people in particular in this chat.
Oh man.
But let's not go on to it there, because we want to talk about this week's movies. We've potentially got two movies that are going to break the top 10, in my opinion. We're going to start off with Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street was made in 1984, starring everybody's favourite villain, Freddy Krueger. It's the monstrous spirit of a slain child murderer seeks revenge by invading the dreams of teenagers whose parents were responsible for his untimely death. But I'm going to come straight away and start talking about it myself, because it was my week and I absolutely love this movie. This is one of these films that when I was a kid absolutely terrified me, and still terrified me when I watched it recently. I was absolutely a big girl's blouse and watched it with the lights on during the day. I never did the at night in the dark nice and loud experience that I'm sure some of you may have done.
I did half of it.
Aye man, you've got to watch it in the dark. That's
Didn't have the lights though, but
Even I watched it in the fucking dark.
Well, Sean, do you tell us a bit more? You're someone that's typically scared of these anyway, so give us a bit of an insight and your thoughts on it as well.
I actually genuinely didn't find it that scary at all. I think it was just because it's quite an older film. I did enjoy it, but I just didn't find it scary at all. I just found it. I don't think it's. And that, watching it in this day and age for the first time, I just thought it was a bit kind of more funny. Some of the wee bits where he was chasing her and all that. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but I didn't find it scary. Which he's not much of a shite bag, Alan. With horror films and stuff like that. So I just didn't really find it that scary. But I did enjoy it.
I thought that might happen.
I was just going to add to what Sean was saying.
You did say that, aye.
Guys, keep going. Bunsy, you follow in.
I thought that in terms of the films that we watched in the horror week, I had like this was a state scary, backing up what Sean said. It was more that I think it was more like you kind of had an inkling to what was coming. Like I was still on the edge of my seat, and I was shitting myself a couple of times, but it wasn't as scary as the. What was the ones that we watched at Horror Week? Because I can't remember. I'm horrendous with names of them. Can you remember?
The Conjuring.
Okay, what was that film called again?
we watched The Conjuring. That was really good.
I just wanted you to say for Daniel's benefit.
Bastards, a lot of these.
Anyway, carry on, Sean. I'm just backing you up there because I sort of.
No, that was all I was really saying. I know obviously Daniel kind of alluded to it in the chat. At first he was like, "Oh, you're going to be shitting yourself," and when he sat down and watched it, I think he maybe, I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking that's the first time that you've watched it in many a year, Daniel. That it's I can imagine it being terrifying back. It was at 84.
Yeah.
I can imagine it being absolutely terrifying back then, but in 2021. For somebody who is scared of the rain shadow, it didn't really scare me at all, funnily enough.
I mean,
I thought, even though it didn't look very good, the concept is something that would get you when you fell asleep. I thought that might scare you.
The actual concept and stuff's really good, and the way it's done's really good, but the actual bits that are meant to scare you, they didn't really have me I didn't feel that there was any great tension in it for me to get scared. I felt like it was just quite like when like in the opening scene where the lassie, the blonde lassie, where she was running away from, it's like a very light jog, and then you seen him running in the background, and it's like I just like was almost laughing at it instead of like being scared of it. And then the same thing happened again where I'm terrible for remembering characters' names, but the dark-haired lassie, where she was running, where she was running back into her house. Pretty sure this was when she was trying to when she told her boyfriend, Johnny Depp, to wake her up. He'd fell asleep, and she was running back in, but she was basically she was power walking. I was like, just run.
That's what happens in your dream. So, you can't run in your dream. That's not something you can do.
Was that the actual point of it, though?
That's the point, aye. So it's in your dream. So in your dream, when someone's chasing you, you can't run very fast. So she can't run fast because she's dreaming.
Right. Well, I was just kind of stuff. I don't know. It just never really scared me. But again, I don't think it was. I did enjoy watching it, but it just didn't scare me at all. If I was rating this film pure scare, it would be a 0.
Wow.
A 0 on the scale.
You're stunned into silence.
Jeez.
I think the third film was scarier because it looked a lot better visually. The third one, I think.
Sorry guys, that's just me checking the sound on the side there. Again, so obviously I've got this. Watched this as a kid. Watched it loads and could kind of leaned on the nostalgia thought process that I was scared of this film because it was terrifying at the time for me, but I still found it quite scary because I think it's very similar to Jaws in the sense where there's very little screen time of Freddy. It's all about your imagination. It's all about what you think may happen, and you're running from this boogeyman or you're hiding from this shark that could be coming to get you. And for me, that's a lot scarier than a slasher film as such. So I really enjoyed it. I mean, the acting, of course, is a bit suspect. I'll come on to some trivia bits in a wee while. It talks about how they picked the actor and what the point of it was, because it was Freddy only gets 7 minutes of actual on-air screen time. This is obviously a bit scary to me as well. And probably like yourself, Daniel, you know what happens in the other movies and scenes that happen in there can influence your thoughts on this one. But no, all round, thought this was quite a terrifying movie. Tried to convince Sarah and Caden to watch it along with me. Couldn't get them to watch it at all. But no, I really, really enjoyed it. Hunter, you give us some of your thoughts on it, please, mate.
Yeah, I was saying I was enjoying the nostalgia, the retroness at the beginning, that sort of bit where it's the first dream, and I think it's can't remember, but there's a Tina, the blonde-haired lassie, but it's her dream to begin with. Mm-hmm. when they're in that warehouse and you sort of see sort of Freddy Krueger putting himself together, and there's a bit of tension builds up there. But it kind of lost me a bit when he starts chasing her down the alleyway and his arms are like doubled in length, and it just then it cuts to the next scene and they're back to normal size. I had a wee chuckle at that bit, and then there was the other bit as well where we had the whole I was actually howling at the Nancy, I'm your boyfriend now, when the Tom comes out the phone. I was howling at that.
One of the pieces of trivia talks about that and how she requested to take that device home with her after the filming.
Make of that what you will.
I will say no more to that, but
it's a bit again considering
thinking of it logically. I know you're sort of comparing it with Jaws, and I think the difference with Jaws is I think there's more chance of being bit, even though me swimming in waters I can't afford to travel to these places where sharks circulate. However, there's more chance of me still being bitten by a shark than there is by being chased by a melted pedo with knives for fingers.
Interesting you brought up the pedo side of it, because it's obviously not alluded to in this. That comes in a couple of movies' time that gets announced as what he was actually up to. He's more of a child murderer at this point.
Yeah.
On the synopsis on Amazon, it does mention the fact
it does. Because at the time I was like, I've totally forgot that. Like, I totally forgot that was even a thing. But that's obviously because it comes in later movie. I don't remember it from the early stage movies.
I think
he's definitely a paedophile behind the third one.
Yeah.
I must have got confused because I thought it was actually mentioned in the film by what's her name, the Nancy's mother. I thought she'd mentioned
Alcoholic mother.
She mentions about him being a killer, and then obviously I've read the synopsis after it and then picked up that it's mentioned there. I thought it was actually mentioned in the film, so
So did I.
I realised that.
It's just one of those things that eludes it, but it's like it's known fine well that that's what he is when it comes to it. Because when you go into the other films, you get a bit more of a background story about the parents, what he was like, how they murdered them and stuff. There's a lot more that comes into it. But there's so many iconic scenes in this movie. When you take the one where she's in the bath and the claws coming up through the water and she's drifting off and she's in a bit where she feels that she's safe, but that's happening to her. What makes it really, really cool for me is the fact that you're experiencing something that in dreams where you've had nightmares and you're feeling like that, and they're actually getting the reality of it, but they can't really explain it to people because there's no, like, you're literally criminal. You're just insane if you're talking about being attacked and abused in your dreams. I did forget the bits where they're like they can grab him from the dreams and they can take his hat and stuff like that. I wasn't the biggest fan of that side of it, but I think he's one of the scariest horror characters out there.
I love him, man. I mean, I'm similar to you, Kyle. Like, I watched this as a kid, which is making that whatever you will, right? But I dressed up as him for Halloween when I was like 8 or 9 or something. Like, I loved this. And even watch it. It has been years since I watched it, but I know it's no scary anymore. And I know, like, the bit Hunter mentioned where he's got the long arms. When I was young, that used to scare me, but now he's just holding. You could tell he's just holding 2 sticks out, and they're all wobbly and all that. And some of the effects where, like, he cuts his own belly open and, like, shows you some maggots and stuff like that. That used to horrify me as a kid, but now you can see how shit it looked. But I tried to put that all aside because I do still love this. I think he's an amazing character, and it's like you said, the way they built him later on in the other films, like his mum's actually a nun that was molested by all the different horrible criminals when she got locked into the asylum overnight, mental. So he's like the spawn of all these evil people. But things I still liked about it that still looked good, I thought, considering it was 1984. See when he's coming out the wall and she's drifting asleep and like the wallpapers are good.
Yeah.
Love that bit. The bit where she gets dragged up onto the ceiling. Now, it's quite obvious now she's getting pulled along the floor, but they've got the set upside down, right? But it still looks quite good, and I still loved that as a kid. And I still had all those memories from watching this as a kid, and they used to fucking scare the shit out of me. And I still think this does a great job of using it. I mentioned the issue with The Conjuring and the issue with Insidious is that it wasn't like a focal point bad guy that was scary. Whereas I think this does a great job of giving you like a focal point that it's fucking Freddy and he's going to fucking get you. And there's songs about him and you can't get away from him. You've got to stay awake. I love that shit. And that's why I think this is much better than the stuff we've watched previously.
I know we talked about the songs a little bit in everyone's favourite movie, The Conjuring. And we talked about the little boy with the tiptoe through the tulips and stuff, but this is scarier to me. Like hearing that, like he's coming for you, 1, 2. That's much more scarier than the other ones.
And I think it's because it's like the young, like the tone of how they're singing it as well. It's not like a normal playground happy-go-lucky song. It's that there's an eerie chill to the way they're singing it as well.
That's it. And when you see the little girl that's doing the jump rope, when in the middle of it, that's the daughter of the people that owned the house that they used. So they just got her involved as part of it, just because it was a wee girl for it. Jerry's asking where's Sean. Sean's too big time, Jerry, to come on screen, so he stays off screen until people start subscribing. But with the amount of viewers we've got in here today, it's really quiet, so we'll be much of that. Sean will be staying offline as we speak.
Sean's just stay off until he gets a hot tub part of that, so they can feel his body in full form. Until
we're all sitting in the hot tub then. That sounds good to me. But see just on the
money so I can upgrade my... Is there a delay in here, by the way?
No.
Just the way you're talking, mate.
No, I was just saying I want the subscription money to upgrade my 1999 laptop so that I can actually get on this.
Oh dear. Well, just to touch back on the house itself, because the Nancy's house has a blue door in this, and for you guys that have watched the other ones, you'll know fine well it's synonymous with having a red door. It's all about red doors. She's constantly got a bright red door that people are focusing in on. And this is again when all these movies not merge into one for me, but I can't separate them as well because I picture a red door. So when I seen a blue door, I was like, oh, that's not her house. That must be somebody else's house. Couple of other bits in there as well. Nancy is a character. Nancy's quality, absolutely fantastic. But there were some other people that were interviewed for the role of it, which were Jennifer Grey, Courtney Cox, and Demi Moore. Demi Moore.
I can imagine Courtney Cox doing that.
Well, she'd end up being Scream anyway, so she's still got her horror fix in the future.
So I know that you'll probably get to this in your trivia, but Nancy's only in the ones that Wes Craven directs. So that's the first one, the third one, and the seventh one, I think.
Right.
And that's so that's why the other ones are shite. The ones in between that are shite.
See, I can't really remember two. I can only remember the scene where he's driving the bus. That's it.
Two's the one where he comes out for inside folks' bodies. He like bursts out for inside their bodies. It's shite.
So if you are going to go ahead and watch more of these, skip 2, go straight onto 3. 3's a masterpiece.
Three's the best one out of the lot of them. It's amazing.
Well, we should have done that. Jumped in at number 3, a bit like how we did with Star Wars, and jumped in at number 5. But just to jump on some of the trivia then, since I've got it up just now, New Line Cinema was saved from bankruptcy by the success of this film. So this film has been New Line Cinema has been jokingly nicknamed the house that Freddy built. So is there a wrestler that's got a line like that? The Wes Craven first came up with the basic idea for the movie from a series of articles in the LA Times over a 3-year period about a group of Southeast Asian refugees. Several of them died through horrific nightmares. The group had come to the US to escape a murderous reign of, it says Pol Pot, but was he not in X Factor or something? The car from Warehouse guy. Basically, this is coming from a real life scenario where people have died through their dreams. Medical authorities have called this a phenomenon, Asian death syndrome. It's all about a variant of a sudden unexpected death syndrome that happened to these people during the middle of their nightmares, where they couldn't explain what had been happening to them other than that they were getting tortured, and they died ultimately through it. And that's where Freddy Krueger come from.
And it was fucking him. He got them.
It was Freddy. Freddy got them. We've already touched on it. Johnny Depp's in this. It is a film debut of Johnny Depp, and the reason that Johnny Depp was chosen was because Wes Craven's daughter thought he was dreamy. She thought he was better looking than the other ones that were considered for the role, which were Charlie Sheen, John Cusack, Kiefer Sutherland, Brad Pitt, and of course Nicolas Cage.
I mean, the shit acting is partly what makes this good. I think if you've got Johnny Depp, obviously you can tell he'd never acted before in this, and that's what makes it better for me. I think if there was anyone good in it, it would make it worse.
I can't forget his name because I watched this literally the first. I think we watched this Tuesday morning after we decided the movies. But the other guy that gets jailed for killing his girlfriend at the time, he's probably one of the worst actors I've seen. He was gone.
Oh, he's so bad.
But it's very over the top, and just like the way that they're overacting. Probably is the best way to describe it.
Yeah,
it's like a bad soap opera.
Yes,
I didn't even realise it was Johnny Depp as well at the time. I didn't click till after I'd watched it.
Just reading as well here, in the original script, Freddy was a child molester. However, the decision was made to change him to be a child murderer to avoid accusations of exploiting a series of child molestations in California that happened around the same time as production. So, with such a horrible storyline and a horrible background, they decided to try and take a little bit of it out, but they rewrote it back in later movies. It says here that the movie bears a stark contrast to its slasher brethren like Halloween and Friday the 13th, which always portray a group of teenagers being terrorised whilst the adults are weirdly absent. But in this movie, the parents are very much a big part of the story, which adds a bit more intrigue to it. Because typically it's young teenagers, stupid, naive, running away, getting caught and dying. This one, the parents are well involved. It's so funny because I keep wanting to bring up things that happen in the next movies, because I was going to talk about like Patricia Arquette's character and stuff, where her mum and dad and all that are very heavily involved. There's also a movie that apparently this movie is a sequel to, unofficially. So it's seen that this is a sequel to Wes Craven's earlier horror hit from the 70s called Last House on the Left.
I've seen that.
Not seen it. I don't know anything about it, but apparently it's...
Was that no remade as well? I think I've seen
Yeah,
the
that's a remake.
If-
It's a remake.
So it says here, in that movie, John and Paige Collingwood use vigilante justice to kill off a vicious criminal, Krug, who victimises their daughter Marie. This could be several years later, and Krug could come back as Kruger, a demon terrorising their second daughter, and maybe the trauma from the first events caused the change of names and even a divorce. But the two movies link and fit in together.
Stretching a wee bit there.
Why, that's clutching. Aye.
It's just similar. So basically, Wes Craven's copied a similar story to what he's had before and made it better. And like I said earlier, Kruger only has under 7 minutes of screen time, which I thought was really cool. Again, it builds attention. You don't actually get to see him for that much. And around 1 hour and 11 minutes, when Nancy's trying to bring him back to reality, she tells her dad to break down the door in 20 minutes. And then at that point, it's exactly 20 minutes until the movie ends.
Wow.
So they've timed that well. I know we talked a lot about direction last week. I think that's quite clever when they can add in really good direction points from it on there. But it sounds like it's not been a huge success in terms of scaring people. I was honestly under the full hope that it really scared Sean. That was what I was really hoping for. But Burnsy had alluded a little bit in the chats and stuff earlier as well, and before we came online, that he was glad that he watched it in the daytime. Could you not have handled it last night, Burnsy?
Well, the reason I didn't watch it last night was basically I fell asleep, but it was more just I think the first 10, 15 or probably the first scene when she's like wakes up and then she's like got rips in her dress, and I was kind of that's the first scene that I was got scared at that point, because it was just like it was a surprise that went in instantly. I was like, this is going to get worse, obviously, but it kind of I think it more just kind of stayed at the same level of scary level, I guess. But like all this, I think every scene actually was, or every nightmare that she had added something to it. It wasn't like some films that we've watched in terms of you're like, oh, they could have cut that, could have cut this. That I think every scene had added something to it and made it worthwhile. The only bit I thought was the ending was, I thought the ending was bizarre because I didn't really get it. And it was only after reading it that I realised that there was I had an argument with the two. I think it was the person that had directed and produced the film or something like that. They had like different ways that they wanted the ending to go, because I was kind of like, well, obviously she's managed to like succumb like Cougar to not having any power over her. And then she goes outside at the car, and then he's there with her mum and shutting the car. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. And I wasn't sure if I was missing something in terms of what actually happened throughout the film. But from reading the reviews of it after it was kind of similar, saying that all the storyline made complete sense instead of her having these nightmares and all that. But then the ending didn't really go on the same reality of how the film was meant to portray it. That was only let down, I thought, but everyone else I thought was...
Do you get what happens in the ending? Obviously, they're still in the dream.
Yeah, but I think it was, when I was reading it as well, they were saying how there's not a book about it as well, or have I made this up?
I don't know about a book, mate.
There was something. It wasn't him Cougar taking her mum back in, and the car taking off on its own. It was going to end with her managing to realise that she's got rid of him out of her dreams, but they wanted to leave it obviously in a scary moment instead. That was the only bit that I didn't really. I thought the ending wasn't. I don't know what they could have done with it to try and leave it on a sort of scary level, but the ending, I was kind of like, this just doesn't add up to how the film had went all the way through it.
See, I'm going to contrast you there, because I think in terms of the ending was really clever, because they bring it into the end, all those people that have been murdered throughout the movie are back, so it makes you feel like the whole movie's been a nightmare as she's came out of it. But then it then flips it again, and the roof comes over the top, and it's got Freddy's jumper basically as the print across it, just a quick side note on that. See when the roof of the car shuts down as well, that mechanically failed and slammed shut. It was supposed to come over slowly, so the actual screams and reactions that you get from the people in the car were genuine because it was a mistake, but it worked so well in terms of the movie that they kept it in. Because then the movie's basically telling you at the moment that actually she's still in her nightmare, and it hints to the fact that everything's happened throughout previously, but now she's back in her nightmare and she's back getting captured by Freddy, and it then drifts off and finishes up from there. I quite like that.
Okay. I think maybe that's what I missed. I didn't click onto that then in that case, but I did, because I did search for it after, thinking, what have I missed here? But when I read the bits, it wasn't explained like you just explained it there, which now makes a lot more sense.
It's one of those things as well, as that like the concept will never go away. So like, as long as anyone can think about him and remembers him, they can have nightmares about him. And if they can have nightmares about him, then he exists, so they can get you. So it doesn't, like, you can never really defeat him, if that makes sense. So that could be even perceived as her just going back to sleep the next night, and it's just it's even another nightmare. She's always going to be there. So as long as you remember him, he'll get you. And that's why it used to scare me so much as a kid, because I used to think, I'll never get away from him, so I'll always remember him, they'll always get me.
She talks about it in the movie as well.
Is that in the original script it says that the ending was meant to be the four of them driving away, the mother smiling, the car never goes down and she's never attacked. But then they changed the script because I think they had a sort of disagreement over how they wanted to end it with two people, and then that's how they ended up coming up with a different ending. That's the bit that I read. That's what where it was meant to be. The original script was basically just that it's finished, and everyone was a dream. She's managed to get rid of him, and that's
I'm glad it wasn't that, because that's the lamest ending ever. It was all just a dream and nothing really happened. Like Wizard of Oz.
Argument
doesn't really fit in there. But just to touch on a point Daniel said there just now as well about this makes you not want to sleep, right? Because she actually brings it up in there about the record for going without sleep, which was 11 days at the time, and that was a Guinness World Record, which I think got rebroken at being about 14 days until Guinness stopped recognising it as something you can achieve to beat on there. But it makes you think, like,
it drives you mental. You should never do that. It like makes you go insane.
Basically, in terms of your physical health, it doesn't actually damage you too much, but your mental health gets fucked because you're hallucinating, you can't speak properly, you lose your communication abilities completely after about 5 to 6 days of not sleeping. But I just think, God, I'm shattered halfway through the day, never mind fucking 14 days later. I still go for midday naps, man. But anyway, I think we've spoke loads about this, so let's jump on and give it some scoring. So just looking on IMDb, they've scored a 7.5 out of 10 on IMDb, which is quite a good score. What did Instagram have to say about this, Daniel?
This got quite a high score on Instagram. I averaged out at a 4.25.
A 4.25. I think we should jump in and ask Sean for his one there, because he's been a wee bit quiet.
Obviously, the point in a horror film is to scare you, and for me, it didn't really do it. And I think it's just because of the age of it. And as you were talking about how, like, obviously you only see him for 7 minutes at a time. This is the first time I've ever seen any Nightmare on Elm Street films, whatever. So I already knew what it looked like. So that suspense for me was just completely gone. So I'm just going to give it, I think, a very fair 3.5.
3.5. You've scored it higher than what I thought you were going to be the way you were talking
that's
earlier.
higher than I expect.
No, because I still liked it, but it just didn't scare me. I think that's maybe why I liked it.
To be fair, because I'm thinking that I'd come a similar scoring to you there, Sean, about the 3.5, because I like this more in the memories of when I watched it originally to what I did in my last watch of it. It wasn't the most enjoyable horror film that I've watched in a long time. It's not as scary as other movies that are more up to date than this, but it's iconic. You kind of felt the characters in it, even Nancy's quality. I'm going to score it 3.5 as well. Hunter?
Also a 3.5 for me. Again, the retroness, the classicness of it. It's got a lot going on. With regards to scariness, I said I found it laughing at it more, or along with it more, rather than being scared by it. I just think that it kind of lost me in the last half hour. I just sort of went over the top, just kind of turned up to 11 at that point when you started having all the blood pushing out for the bed, and it just kind of lost it a wee bit for me there. So a 3 out of 5 for me.
3 out of 5 from Hunter. Burnsy?
Hunter, so just you said you were. I thought you said you were giving it a 3.5 at the start, then a 3 just to check.
No,
That's a 3.5.
3.5 from Hunter, yep, 3.5.
Alright, so I'm going to give it so I'm going to give it a 4. The only bit for me was just that it didn't have the to go get higher. It was just it wasn't as scary as what I thought it was going to be. But everything else about the film I thought was class. I really enjoyed it.
Now, Burns' a secret wee horror fan, isn't he? Like secret.
I love it. Listen, we're going to get Buns into more horrors. Like he's right into it.
That's it. And Daniel, finishes off, please, mate.
The nostalgia kicks in a bit for me. I still really like this. I love the whole concept of it. And this is probably higher than it deserves, but a 4 for me as well.
Quite high scores all round, boys. We've normally got somebody that shits away at it. So, Burnsy, what does that then bring us up to?
That's an overall 3.7.
An overall 3.7, which puts it on our leaderboard, joint alongside The Hunt and The Departed. So, breaks into the top 15, Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's fair.
Yeah, just behind Short Term 12 and above things like Mrs. Doubtfire as well. Awesome. So that brings us to the end of all the good things that we're going to talk about, because I'd imagine the next movie is going to get ripped to shreds right now. And it's good to see we've got a lot more viewers in that are ready to listen to us talk about Star Wars. So before we go into Star Wars, I'm just going to read what IMDb has to say about it. So it says, after the rebels brutally overpowered by the Empire on the ice planet Hoth, Luke Skywalker begins Jedi training with Yoda, whilst his friends are pursued across the galaxy by Darth Vader and the bounty hunter Boba Fett. 1980, this movie came out. It's got an amazing score of 8.7 on IMDb. It's a top 15 movie that won 2 Oscars. Guys, we cannot shit all over this. Before we go into it, I'm going to talk first, right? So, obviously,
you need to make it clear to everyone that this is Empire Strikes Back that we've watched, the second one. So
the Empire Strikes Back, so the 5th one, episode 5 when it comes to Star Wars, second one to be theatrically released. As a person that really likes Star Wars, instead of starting with this movie, I actually watched A New Hope first, straight into Empire Strikes Back, and then right into the Return of the Jedi. So I watched all 3 of them back to back. I mean, I've got pictures of Star Wars up on the wall here. Mm-hmm. This is how good it is. This is fantastic movies, guys. I love this. This is brilliant. I don't know. I don't even know how to describe how much I like this. I think that for its time in 1980, the special effects that it's got on it are incredible. I'll even say they hold up to today, even though you see potatoes flying around the sky and stuff. There's little bits that are getting added in there. I think it's hard to not like this, which is why I'm scared of what you guys have got to say, because it seems like none of you really enjoyed this. I need to implore you to go in and watch the other ones to get the full storyline and the picture of it. It is a great movie. I don't know what else to say about it. I just love it. The acting in it's fantastic. Han Solo is one of the best characters in any movies ever. Darth Vader is terrifying. He's really, really scary. I'm too nervous of what you guys are going to say. I can't even think what I'm going to say. So I'm going to pass it over to Hunter, because I think he'll ease off a little bit compared to the rest of these.
This is going to be the first drop of shite on your parade, I'm afraid.
I'm nervous of Dunter. Dunter's going to do me here.
Right, I watched this. It must have been years ago when I was younger, and I don't know what it is. It's just something that's never grabbed my attention. And again, I went into this trying to clear my mind, remove what stereotypes I thought I had or whatever, and I just could not get into it. They just kept creeping back in. And all I kept thinking about when I was watching it was I could watch a 25-minute Family Guy episode on this, and I would cover the plot line and cover all the bases and give me what I needed to know.
Family Guy's like the worst telly as well.
I don't know. I've read some of the reviews, and I'm like, have I watched a completely different movie to what they've watched? Like, they're saying it's family action comedy, and I'm like, that just never seemed to tick any of the boxes for me. Now, I can understand why people are involved in this movie. You said there is some stuff like the effects for the time and stuff like that. It was ahead of its time then, but just as a subject matter, there was just nothing that grabbed me in at all for it, I'm afraid.
You've got action, you've got space, sci-fi, you've got special effects, you've got robots, you've got lightsabers. What can you not like? Come on, fuck.
All of that.
All of the above.
Is there anything else that's good about it that you can try
it's like I'm doing a Daniel here. Look at me, I'm rubbing the inside of my under my eyes and my nose there. Like,
you know how I feel now, Kyle. You know how it feels to have something you love shat on. This is what I get every fucking week.
It's especially when, like, we're talking about like how much you use your imagination. Hunter made us watch Fear and fucking Loathing, for Christ's sake. Come on.
You're not going to shat on because it was shite as well, so it's fine.
Alright, I'm nervous, but Sean, this seems right up your street. You were absolutely raging that this won and this was even a selection, so shoot.
I wasn't happy that this was a selection at all. I can remember watching, like, I someday in my youth, one of my uncles tried to get me into Star Wars when I was younger, and I never ever took to it. So I tried the same as Hunter to go into this with an open mind. And I actually was really surprised. I was really, really surprised. It was 10 times worse than what I ever remember it to be. It was absolutely horrendous.
Guys, just on that note, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute all these guys and I'll just talk for the next 25 minutes. How does that sound?
Yeah, actually, if we go
Point number one.
You're going to shock us on scene.
Yeah, I'd be something like I would talk
Hudders in the first half there, didn't he? Hudders in the first half.
I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea who was who. I had no idea what the conflict was, what it was about. I had no idea where they were. I had no idea the setting. I had no idea about anything because we're watching the second film, and it's just you've literally just plucked out a film and just made us watch. Why not have us watch the first one? You probably would have had more of a chance in getting us to actually maybe semi-enjoying it and just going straight into something.
Try to explain this to you before though. It depends how you look at it because this is only the second one released, but I picked it as the best movie. If you want, what we could do is we'll go back and we'll watch it chronologically, right? We'll start off with the very first one and we'll work our way through. This will technically be the 7th film on the list, but what we'll do is we'll do that. We could maybe do, we'll put it on Instagram and we'll see if people want that. And if people want that, we have to do it.
Daniel, make sure
you'll be Han Solo doing that yourself.
And the thing is as well, it would be shite to watch them in that order because the whole point of this one is the shock of the dad thing.
Yeah.
And if you watch them in the type that you need to watch them in the order they came out because otherwise the surprises under there.
That's it. I don't. I'm quite shocked that you couldn't grasp who was who. I think it explains them. It's not a film that you need to really dissect to work out what's going on. To be honest, it's quite a straightforward movie.
There's a lot of jargon in this. Like it's the most jargony film I've ever watched in my life.
And ironically, they stole most of the jargon for Star Trek.
What a load of
let him talk, Kyle. You keep your mouth shut.
I can understand. You like what you like, but I just could not take to this at all. It just was so boring. I just found it absolutely dreadful. Really, really poor.
Did you have any parts in it that you particularly liked? Come on, there must be at least a scene in there that you enjoyed.
Genuinely, I cannot recall one single bit of this that I enjoyed. Probably the end credits was my favourite part because I'll be able to turn the telly off.
The novel at the start that you enjoyed reading as well.
Aye, the novel, thanks, aye. It's just shite. It's shite. Like honestly, right? See where he chops off the bear's arm? That's just one of the worst, but special effects, whatever it was that I've ever seen in my life. It was crap. It was just crap.
I mean, it's 40-year-old.
You've just totally praised the special effects and all that. Whatever that camel is that they were riding at the start, that camel, they could have been able to just getting a real camel in. It just looked absolutely ridiculous. Whatever that thing was, it was so fake. It was just crap. I absolutely hated it, and I can't wait to get another review.
I'm shocked that you thought it was fake. It's all kind of realistic stuff that they're doing in there. Right, Daniel, take it away. Losing the will to live.
So,
Keep telling your voice.
Right, so I should like this, right? I'm a big fucking geek. I love comic books. I love sci-fi stuff. I love all sorts of weird, lame shit. I just don't like fucking Star Wars. I don't know what it is. There's just something about it that I think's fucking shite. I tried to give this a chance like everyone else because I know I don't like it. So I've watched the trilogy, like this one, like the main trilogy. The rest of them, I've not even tried the rest of them. But I've watched this original trilogy maybe 4 or 5 times in my life. Folk keep saying, "Oh, watch it again. You'll like it this time." I never fucking like it. It's still always shite. I just don't fucking get it. Like, I don't know what's exciting about it. It's just weird and like. Stuff about it just annoys me now. See Chewbacca. He's like sentient like a human, right? He can he talks like he can understand. He speaks a language, and everyone understands him. And like
he's also a landing engineer too. He's fixing the ship at one point.
Yeah, he fixes stuff. Like he's like a mechanic. He's like a sentient thing, right? And then Han Solo tickles him behind the ear sometimes. It's fucking weird. Like, is he like a pet or like an equal? Stuff like that.
Just tickle behind the ear.
Aye, well, it just comes out. Aye, it's so strange, this film as well. It's a bit like they should have. See, me, I would quite enjoy it if they went full Jim Henson puppets. It was all just fucking puppets and like this fantastical space world. But it's half weird puppets and shit, and then half kind of seriousness, and then half incest, and there's no consequence to anything. Like, everyone, you crash your spaceship, everyone's alright. Like, you fall out of the fucking vacuum into the abyss, oh, he's actually held on. Oh, no, he's fallen all the way down 50 metres, or he landed in a pipe, it's just a fun shoot. Whee!
It's so funny, because when that happened, I was like, I wonder what...
A new fucking hand. Oh, here's your special new hand. It's fucking shite, man. Like, there's no stakes to anything. Like, I think for something to be exciting, you have to feel like something bad can happen, but you never ever feel like Darth Vader's ever going to get them because it's almost like a big cartoon. The one thing that pissed me off the most, right, is you've got this everyone in Darth Vader's huge army, right, and they've got all this technology where there's things that fly about and shoot lasers and all this sort of stuff, right? And he sends down these big, slow, 4-legged robots, and then they win by tying their fucking legs together and they fall over. Like, it's meant to be like a futuristic fucking space saga, and they're doing things. I would imagine that would have happened in like fucking Greek wars, where they sent a big fucking wooden thing. Stupid. I'm going to stop talking because folk are going to hate me for not liking this.
I hate you right now, so it's fine. It's absolutely fine. When he does,
I just like it.
When he does fall down and goes through like the smallest little gap into a chute, I did at the time. I was like, I like it because I think it's cool. But then I knew it was going to get mentioned at this point as well. It was one of those bits where I see that, I was like, oh, that's going to get brought up.
And you got to remember at that point he's hanging on by one arm as well. His other arm's chopped off at that point.
But he just gets a new hand anyway in the very next fucking scene, so there's no consequence to getting your hand chopped off anyhow. It's nothing. Also, you mentioned you like Han Solo, right? He's just like a smug, wanky bastard that's sort of winding up Princess Leia the full time. And then eventually she's like, oh, I love you. And he's like, yeah, I know. And do you know the type of guys that like that? Absolute wankers like a guy like that. Do you know what I mean? Well, if anyone thinks that's cool, you're a fucking bellend. That's what I would say. Just be nice to people. He's just a fucking dick.
Nah, but women that I like nice guys. We've established that throughout the years. Anyway, that's a different podcast talk we'll have.
He's been a bit, a nice guy and just being an absolute bellend.
Just to bring up on that scene there, because the bit where she says to him, "I love you," and he says, "Yeah, I know," wasn't actually meant to be what was said in the script. He was meant to have a little monologue and say he loved her back. But actually, at the time, Harrison Ford had refused to sign on for a third movie. He was only wanting to do two. He didn't want to do a third. He thought that was going to be his demand. Like, that was the end of him at that point. So he just put in he just ad-libbed something that he thought would be like a funny way to go out. He didn't go to the script in that point. And then George Lucas liked it, but the scriptwriters didn't, and they had a big fight about it because they wanted them to do the other scenes. But then ultimately they convinced him to come on for a third movie anyway. But yeah, that was supposed to be the end of him there. I think it's a good thing.
One thing I do like is that there's that Mandela effect in this, which I always think about, is that everyone thinks that he says, "Look, I am your father," but he doesn't. He just says, "I am your father."
That's it. So I've got to hear in my trivia that you're ruining and stealing from me straight away.
Oh, sorry.
But I've not actually taken that much trivia for this one because I knew it was going to get a battering and I didn't want to give you guys more ammunition. But this one, it says here, the movie's most famous line is often misquoted, with many believing that Darth Vader says, "Look, I am your father." He actually says, "No, I am your father." Even James Earl Jones, who provided the voice for Darth Vader, misquoted the line when he referred to it as part of a documentary as well. So it's one of the biggest Mandela effects is probably one of these. Is that line from it as well. I'm going to break up the batter in this a little bit and give some more trivia just now before Burnsy comes in and obliterates it as well. But this obviously did get 2 Oscars. So it won best Oscar for Best Sound and also a winner for a Special Achievement Award. It was nominated for Best Music with an original score and Best Art Direction set decoration. So
I did write down, Kyle, that I did like the music. I thought the music was excellent. So there you go. There's a positive. We have found a positive between the 4 of you morons.
Carrie Fisher stood on a box for many of her scenes with Harrison Ford to make up for the height difference because she's 5'1" and he's 6 foot, and they're supposed to be similar in height. So that's good casting. George Lucas decided that a battle on an ice planet was necessary because he felt that it was easy to cheat in space because the background was black and you could hide errors easily, but with a white background the effects crews would have to work much harder and they would be much more impressive, and it absolutely showed. Well done, George. Fantastic work. Boba Fett is never referred to by name in this movie, but everybody knows who Boba Fett is, apart from Sean, clearly. Sean's like, who the fuck is Boba Fett? He's often referred to as the bounty hunter by the other characters. However, there was a deleted scene that's included in some of the Blu-rays with Leia tending to Luke's wounds and saying bounty hunter named Boba Fett. Darth Vader was ranked number 3 on the AFI's list of 50 greatest villains that we've spoken about a few times when we've been on this. And this movie was voted number 1 on the Empire magazine's top 301 movies of all time in July 2014. Just about the last bit of trivia on there, because again, if there's people in here that don't really know what was going on in this movie, this brings you into the next film, which I'd highly recommend. Go and watch The Return of the Jedi. The telepathic communication between Luke and Leia at the end, where Luke pleads for his rescue from the Cloud City, is the only hint that Luke and Leia share a special bond, something that is finally revealed in Star Wars Return of the Jedi. And what was it? What's the special bond? Sean?
That George Lucas is a fucking creep that likes incest.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
They're brother and sister.
Are they no twins, or is it just brother and sister?
Lovely.
Twins. So Luke and Leia are twins that winch in this movie.
Oh, so they're twins, right? Okay, honestly, just move on, please.
Burnsy, we've got Burnsy still to give us his thoughts on here. This is I feel like I'm taking a beating here, guys, to be honest.
I think because they've lambasted it so much and they've taken pretty much all the things that I thought was wrong with it, it's probably going to sound as if I enjoyed this, but I didn't.
It's just caveat and his positive words with this was still shit.
I can't really disagree with any other 3 I've said, so everything excluding you, obviously.
Please, try for
But before you say watch it again, this was only a Star Wars film I did watch when I was younger, unfortunately. So I'm definitely not watching it again. I think for the very start, when I had like the script, when Sean had screenshotted like the message it came up with the reading, I could tell it was going to be a long slog at that point. That was just stupid for the start. Like there's a couple of things that I can remember, other bits I'd taken a note of that just really annoyed me. They were just really silly things. It was like when Luke Skywalker like at the very quite near the start, and then like, oh, he's away, we can't find him, all this kind of stuff. And then they say, oh, it's 725 to 1 that he'll return. It's like, well, he's coming back. What's the point in saying that? There was someone else that said, oh, it's some stupid odds that he was like, it was some miracle that they managed to find him. Just take that out.
I mean, the left have won the Premier League at 5,000. They won. They find that Luke Skywalker's a piece of piss at the odds.
Aye. Well, maybe it would have been better if they didn't find him and that was the end of the film. Maybe that would have been good.
Bursey, don't watch any movie with any hero in it, because every hero's potentially not going to come back or live, so you'll not enjoy any of them.
At least there's something usually behind. There's actually some enjoyment in the films, like that, even if you know what the ending's going to be. Like the Hansel and Princess Leia thing, where like she falls in love with him. They should have just taken that completely out. It's like that was pointless. Like as you know, I always go on about like stuff like is she pregnant? Are they falling in love? All that kind of stuff. And you're like, this was a film that there was no need at all for that to be included. It was just ridiculous. I think all the other stuff that I hated about it has been covered. But the only things that I will say positive about it is it didn't feel to me as if it was like 40 years ago, the film. It felt as if it was a lot more recent. I didn't think it aged pretty well, I thought. And as Daniel and you mentioned before, Kyle, it's like the background music did build the tension fairly well, and the special effects that you touched on too, Kyle, were pretty decent. But again, similar to Sean, like I kind of lost myself quite a lot of way through it as well. I did try, because I kind of thought it's going to be a film which I do lose like either interest in or like understand it. So I made sure I completely switched off everything and tried to take in as much as possible. And even there, I was still like confused. So that just didn't ruin my enjoyment as well. But it's definitely not the worst film we've watched. I'll give it that. That's a positive way to end our thoughts on it.
Well, guys, I'm really, really disappointed at the lack of imagination all four of you guys have had whilst watching this movie. It's an absolute timeless classic that most people that are not morons will look at and be like, yep, that's one of the top 5, top 10 best movies ever made. Top 15 if you look at IMDb, which obviously is the gold standard when we are looking at movies. I'm so shocked at how shit this has been reviewed. I'm absolutely paranoid about what the scoring's going to be. It has got an 8.7 on IMDb. What did Instagram say about it, Daniel?
Fuck. Instagram gave this a 4.9.
I mean, Instagram isn't far wrong, so I'm going to score it first. And I honestly, I'm between a 4.75 and a 5. This is right up there as some of the best films that we've watched. Knowing the list and what we've got on there, and I'm thinking, is there any movies in there that I would choose to watch over this? And I think potentially Parasite might just tip it if I was to choose between the two. But there's no other films on the list that I would watch over this movie. So I'm going to give it a 4.75 on the basis that I would give Parasite a solid 5. I wish our scoring broke down even more and I could give it a 4.95. Just be that just below, but I'll go for the 4.75. Hunter.
Just one.
Fucking hell, man. Do you know what's got a scored 1 on our list is Fear and Loathing. Fear and
I put them about the same. 4 hours of my life combined that I'm not getting back.
I'm dying. Daniel?
I'm going to be slightly more lenient because I understand why people like it. I just don't. But again, it's a 2 for me.
A 2. So Daniel's got it just above Boyhood and below Us. And you've got it below.
I enjoyed watching Us a million times more than I enjoyed watching this.
Right, sorry, I'll take Us. I'll not mention Us. JFK, you've got it below JFK.
I scored JFK lower than that, so that's fucking your fault.
Right, Burnsy.
I'm going to go in between the middle of Daniel. I'm going to go in the middle between Dunter, so I'm going to give it a 1.5. And so Daniel feels happy, I'll mention this. It's on par with No Country for Old Men, so there's one that each can abuse me now. But,
Well,
that's the new hint, Kyle. You need to ask him if it's better or worse than this.
Burnsy's just told us a movie that we've scored on the same level as Ballad of Buster Scruggs is on par with No Country for Old Men and Star Wars Empire Strikes Back.
Ballad of Buster Scruggs, again, I like better than this.
Well, it was only one. Was it only Daniel like Ballad of Buster Scruggs? I think.
I pulled that up a wee bit there. No, I had a wee bit.
I liked that. It was like out of the 6 stories, like that was like a 50-50 split.
Ballad of Buster Scruggs is the only movie that I reckon could challenge Zulu Dawn. Now let's finish up with Sean.
I've given this a lot of thought. 0. I hadn't given it a lot of thought. It took me 2 seconds to decide that it's a 0. I'm just going to be like, obviously there's people that like it, but for me it's a 0, and it's down there with Zulu Dawn.
Jesus fucking Christ, guys! I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back to this. Right, Burnsy.
Right. It gives it a, what Shank's about right, a 1.85 overall.
Fuck my life, man. Honestly.
We're going to lose some followers because of this, like.
Guys, everyone just log off, please. 52 people in here, go. Just leave. Everyone just leave.
We've got the fallout from Up was bad enough. It's got to be even worse than this.
Absolutely no point.
We almost got death threats because they're fucking Up. What the fuck is going to happen now?
So, 1.85 score for Star Wars puts it joint with Boyhood, slightly above Bridge of Spies, guys. Come on, and Glory as well.
I'd say that's right.
Shutter Island's in there.
I would never watch any of those films you just mentioned again, including this one.
Shutter Island and Pet Sematary are in there. Oh.
Pet Sematary's good.
Bunsey loves Pet Sematary. What are you on about?
Yeah.
It's in our horror film, so that makes sense. Well, guys, I don't know about you guys that are watching us, but I'm absolutely deflated. These guys have just ruined everything. Absolutely everything. So I think what we should do is swiftly move on. Just to recap though, Nightmare on Elm Street won this week with a 3.7 and Star Wars caught an embarrassing 1.85. I'm going to jump all your social media this week slagging all you wankers off. A 1.85 is absolutely disgraceful. But
this is all the karma you shitting on classics like Inglourious Bastards and There Will Be Blood and all this shit. You deserve this, mate.
This has got better storylines than both these movies combined, man. Jesus Christ.
Let's go.
Go back and watch them all. I'm gonna watch the next set of 3 as well. I watched 3 back to back. I'll keep watching them. Absolutely incredible movies. But anyway, that brings it to a close in terms of these movies here. But like every week, we do talk about what's coming up next week. Next week's movies, which got spun in the wheel, was foreign language movies. So Sean is having an absolute torrid time with the films that we've been picking as of late. He's going straight off the back of Jaws and Kill Bill to these 2 movies that he wasn't overly complimentary about, we'll just say to be nice, and straight into some foreign movies. I'm going to put them on the screen right now so you can see what they are. So they are on screen right now, and the winners for this week, with an incredibly low number of interactions on Instagram, Daniel, wasn't it? We were quite low in terms of people that were.
It got better towards. So I think we were scraping the barrel with the first 16. I would say half of them people hadn't really heard of. Like, they weren't big named foreign language films. More people were in there once we got to the last sort of 8 and then 4. And these two that won were very, very popular. Loads of votes for these two. So Pan's Labyrinth and Battle Royale. You were going to get Seven Samurai, which had a good chance to go close.
I was absolutely devastated. Seven Samurai is one of the best films ever made, and it would have been absolutely incredible for us to watch it and review. I think the concept of
I like it.
well, I was watching a 3-hour, 40-minute long black and white movie that's in Japanese would have been brilliant. Like, if you've struggled to watch 2 hours of Star Wars, this would have been a slog for you. But feel free to watch it in your own time, guys. Just we can maybe bring it up in the next week anyway if you want to watch it as a little extra. But Pan's Labyrinth, I've not even ever seen the David Bowie one of this Labyrinth stuff. So
no, what? They're not the same. They're not the fucking same.
No.
They're not alike.
What I was going to say is I know absolutely nothing about Labyrinth with that statement there of I just thought it was a similar concept.
Nah.
Never seen either. Really excited to see what it is. Heard good things about it. Battle Royale's always been one of those movies where like I will watch this. It's like, what's it? A downgraded version of the Hunger Games, basically.
No, the Hunger Games is like a child
Teenage
friendly
Lasties
version.
equivalent, aye.
That's it. Well, listen, I think this will be some good movies for us to watch. But what I like about the concept of us watching foreign movies, it is ones that you need to sit down and pay attention to. And foreign movies are massively overlooked constantly, so it'll be interesting to see what the thoughts are when we do watch these.
Seeing that we've got a foreign movies number 1 on the list, and it's going to take something.
Number 1's a foreign film.
Yeah, no, I know. Listen, I'm all for them. All for them. But anyway, let's spin the wheel to see what we've got coming for next week. Let me just get the wheel spin up. And here we have it as well. Guys, just a quick recap of what's on there, because I don't think we've saved for a few weeks now. We've got fantasy, comic books, Partner's Choice, Daniel Burnsy, war movies, romance, 80s comedy, noughties comedy, sexy hunks, Oscar winner, second chance. We might get Seven Samurai in second chance. That'd be good, eh? We've got sci-fi. We can add all the Star Wars into that one. That'd be cool. British true stories based on true events that Hunter liked that are, might be real, might be based on a book. Followers decide, and coming of age. Anyone's jumping out to you guys that you want other than your own selection?
I like Partner's Choice. I think that'll be a laugh.
Aye, that'd be a laugh.
Just
See, I
Hotel
would quite
Wonder.
like sci-fi, so we could have some better sci-fi than Star Wars.
I'd like Burnsy's choices, because
I was just going to say, I know that I'm going to pick a better film than Star Wars in terms of what we'll give it. So
I'm looking forward to watching. There's only one Jimmy Grimble.
And the Gold Trilogy will be hitting them as well.
Yeah.
Gold Trilogy, a shot at glory. Right, okay, the wheel is spinning now, guys, so let's see where we land on there to what's coming. And it comes
Here we
round.
go.
Oh, guys, very good one. It'll be interesting to see what comes for this. But we have fantasy.
I knew it was going to be that. I literally was going to say it to fucking hell. This is a horrid one we're on here.
I think fantasy's a fantastic one.
Aye, this will be quite wide ranging. You'll be surprised. There'll be some good stuff in here, Sean.
Got my head in my hands.
So fantasy is going to be for next week, guys, so please keep your eyes peeled for Instagram when we decide on the movies. Hopefully we'll get a larger interaction than what we did have on some of the other movies that we have, some of the other lists that we've had, especially the most recent one with the foreign language. But that does, however, bring us towards the end of our stream. Like every week, we will send you across to another streamer that is live on Twitch, so please feel free to hang around, follow, whatever you want to do. But yeah, brings us to the end of a devastating week where the guys have shat all over one of the best movies ever made. Please don't be shy in giving them abuse, because I think they deserve it. But thank you very much, and we will see you next week.
Catch.
Bye.